Hello everyone, welcome back to Autognizant channel. First of all, I'm really very sorry for not uploading videos since couple of weeks. Honestly, I was busy with office work and I was also parallelly working on fixing automation framework related issues. Today, we will be implementing a demo project using Autognizant framework step by step, and we will also be talking about all automation best practices that are covered in Autognizant framework. Let's see it in action. Before we start, let me walk you through Autognizant framework vulnerabilities. Let's go to Maven repository and search for Autognizant. You will get Autognizant AC Core framework library. If we look at the first version, there you will see vulnerabilities, and these vulnerabilities are because of direct third-party dependencies. So I was working on fixing these issues, and I was also parallelly working on refactoring the Autognizant framework library. So in the new version, you will see there are no vulnerabilities. So this version of Autognizant framework is safe to use. Along with this, I wanted to show you the Java doc for the Autognizant framework. So this is the free Java doc hosting for open source project. So in this, we can search with group ID called com.autognizant and the artifact ID, and we will see the documentation for the latest version. Right? You can see link to latest version. We can copy this link or we can open it in the new window. So here we can see the list of versions, and this is the latest version. So it has documentation for all the methods available in the framework. Let's go to Selenium package and see the documentation for Autognizant driver. So here you can go through the documentation, and here you will get explanation for each methods that are available in the framework. For demo purpose, we are going to automate demo QA website. So let's go to toolsqa.com. This is a very good website for learning for Selenium, Java, and other stuff. So they have provided demo QA demo site. So we are going to use this demo site for demo project, and we will be automating few scenarios in bookstore application. So this is how it looks like. So we have a bookstore. There is a functionality to create new user. There is a functionality to log in with existing user. So we are going to automate two scenarios: successful login test and unsuccessful login test. Let's start creating demo project. To do that, we first go to github.com and clone AC example project. So this project demonstrates how to write automation test scripts using Autognizant framework. These are the prerequisites which we have to take care of before proceeding further. So we need to have JDK version 16 or greater. We need to have Maven version greater than 3.8.1, and we need to have Eclipse installed on our system. So let's verify whether these tools are properly installed on my system or not. So to do that, I'm opening command prompt. Let's check Java version first. So it says Java version 16.0.1. Let me check Maven version. So we have Maven version as 3.8.5, which is greater than 3.8.1. So we are good. I have already installed Eclipse, and I have already installed Maven and Cucumber Eclipse plugins. Now setting up example project. So as we have already installed Java and path variable is also set properly. Now we have to clone the AC example project. So there are multiple ways you can clone the project if you have GitHub credentials. But for now, I'm assuming that if you don't have GitHub credentials, you can download the AC example project. We just need to click on download zip. It will download a zip file. So in downloads folder, you will see this source code file. Let me extract it. Yeah, this project is extracted successfully. Now I want to copy this in a C drive. Okay, I don't want to keep my project in downloads folder. So let me go to C drive. Rameshwar, Autognizant. And now here I will create a new project for demo. For example, AC demo projects. Under this folder, I'm pasting it. So this is an example project which we have downloaded from GitHub. Now we will rename this project to our demo project. That is demo QA. So I will rename it as demo QA. Next thing what we will do is we will rename the project name in pom.xml. Pom.xml is the project object model file which represents the Maven projects. So let me edit the project name. So earlier this is AC example project. So I'm renaming it to AC demo QA. All right. Let me save this. Now let's open this project in Eclipse. So I'm selecting AC demo projects as workspace and we will open the project in Eclipse. Meanwhile, let's go through the instructions. So after downloading the project, we can simply start writing our tests. So as we are using Cucumber, we have to write our test scenarios in the form of feature files and scenarios. And these feature files we have to store in src test resources folder. Okay, Eclipse is opened up. Let me close this welcome screen. Now here we will import our AC demo QA project. Clicking on import projects. This is a Maven project. So let me search Maven, existing Maven project. Next. Root directory. So we will select AC demo QA as our root directory. And Maven will detect this is a Maven project and it will download all the dependencies for us. So AC demo QA, this is a pom.xml. Clicking on finish. So now Maven is importing all Maven dependencies. Okay, it's almost done. Now let me verify the pom.xml first. So here we have artifact ID as AC demo QA. So we are using Autognizant 1.0.1 snapshot version. So this 1.0.1 version is already released. So we can use the actual latest version. So I'm just removing the snapshot. So now we are using AC Core 1.0.1 framework version. Okay, now we have to create our test scenarios in feature file. So what we will do, let's go to SRC test resources under feature folders. So we can see there are 2 feature files already present. So we can refer these and create our new feature file for demo QA website. So let me create a new feature file. Login.feature. So the file extension should be .feature. So if we create new feature file, it will create a feature file with default template. So we don't need this template. So I'm just removing all this and we'll start with our feature. So feature name is login feature. This feature file contains login related scenario. So the first line is the feature name and the second line is the feature description. This is optional. If you want, we can keep it. How to create scenario? So we will create a simple scenario. I will mention is successful login test. Now, as we know, Cucumber is behavior driven development tool, and we can write our test scenario in simple plain English text in given, when, and then format. So we are going to write our first scenario. Given I am on login page. Correct? Then, when I log in with valid credentials. And here we have to provide the credentials. So for now, I will provide the credentials as a string variable. So my credentials are Rameshwar, my password is or instead of passing the credentials like this, we can pass them in the form of a data table. So let's use data table. So this is my username and this will be my password. Okay, perfect. So my username is Rameshwar. I will show you this. And password is selenium at 123. Okay. Then I want to verify whether I'm successfully logged in or not. Then I verify that the profile page is displayed. So this is a simple scenario. Let me execute this scenario manually. So I'm opening a demo QA login page. So this is the login page for bookstore application. So we first need to land on login page. Then we have to log in with valid username and password. And then we have to verify that we are successfully logged in. So if we land on profile page, that means we are successfully logged in, and we can even verify the username. This field displays which user is currently logged in. So this is what we are going to automate using Autognizant framework. And second scenario we will be automating is unsuccessful login test. So we will be providing some invalid credentials. Invalid password. So this should provide us a proper error message. Invalid username or password. All right. So we have successful login test scenario. Similarly, we will have to write unsuccessful login test. So to save the time, I'm just copy pasting the same scenario again, and I'll just rename it to unsuccessful login test. And all I need to do is provide invalid username and password. So let us say invalid is my username and password is some invalid password. So this application should not allow me to log in. So I want to verify whether this message is displayed or not. If this message is displayed, that means this application is not allowing us to log in with invalid credentials. So we will verify this message is displayed or not. So I verify that the message is displayed. Perfect. So we are done with our first step, that is creating a feature file and scenario. Right. Second step is create project automation hooks class. Now what is this class responsibility? Project hooks automation class enables us to execute a common functions that needs to be executed before starting the actual execution of the scenario and after finishing the execution of scenario. So it takes care of initializing the Autognizant driver, perform logging setup, it loads the object repository before starting the execution of scenario, and it also captures the screenshot whenever any Cucumber step fails. Right. So we already have an automation hooks class in our framework. So we will be creating a project automation hooks class which extends automation hooks class. And as we have copied the example project, so we should be having project automation hooks class. So this class is already there. So we no need to create it from scratch, but we will just go through it. So this class extends automation hooks, right? And it has test context object This test context object is used to pass information from one step definition to other. And we have Excel utility object created to read the test data from Excel files. So in before scenario section, we can see we are calling the super.before scenario method. So this method is defined in the framework, which takes care of launching a browser and launching a web application. Now, if our test case requires test data, then we can fetch the test data using Excel utility object and provide it to the actual Cucumber scenario. So for now, we are automating simple plain scenarios. So we will not go into this part. If you want to perform some database validations, we can get database connection object. Right. In the after scenario section, we are calling super.after scenario method from the framework. So this method terminates the WebDriver session, and it also takes the screenshot for failed step. Okay, so we no need to modify anything in this class. Now let's go to next step, is that create Cucumber step definition classes. So here we will be creating step definition classes. So in Cucumber, we write our scenarios in simple plain English text, and whenever we execute these steps, the step definition code behind these steps gets executed. So we must write step definition code for these steps. So here in the examples project, you can see we have written step definitions for home page steps. I am on home page. I search with keyword like this. So we need to create step definition classes for login page, right? So if you take a look at demo QA project, we have a login page. So we are following page object model design pattern to write our automation test script. So we will be creating step definition classes for each web page. So here we are dealing with two web pages. First is login page and second one is profile page. So what we will do, we will create a login page step definition class for login page. And we can put all these classes under steps package. Let me change the representation so that it will be looking good. So let me change package representation to hierarchical. Perfect. Now here in the steps package, we can create our login page step definition class. Before we do that, let's take a look at homepage step definition class. So this was created for example project. So here we can see we are simply creating a new Java class, and in that class we are creating test context object and the homepage object, because we are dealing here with homepage. So let's create a new class. Login page steps. Perfect. Okay. Then what we need to do, we need test context object to pass the information between step definitions and to share the Autognizant driver. So we will be creating a test context object like this, and then we will create a constructor which will initialize the test context object as well as initialize the page object. We have not created page objects yet. We will be creating very soon. So here, this is test context. And I'm going to initialize this test context with this context object. Okay. So now we are ready with login page step definition class. Similarly, we are going to operate on profile page. So we need to create new class for profile page as well. So to save time, I am duplicating this login page step definition class with profile page. Very simple. So in profile page, we have profile page steps. This class also needs to use test context object. Perfect. Now our next step is, now we have our step definition classes ready, right? And these classes we need to put it under steps package, which is inside src test java directory. Right now you see this class contains the actual step definition code. So we need to write the similar step definition code for our steps. To do that, what I will do, I will first run the scenarios and it will give us the step definition code template. So to do that, we have a runner class. And using a runner class, we can execute our scenarios. So I forgot to mention one thing. We can execute Cucumber scenarios using Cucumber tags, and we can provide tags at feature level as well as scenario level. So what I will do, I will just give Cucumber tags to our scenario. So this is a login feature. So I'm giving a tag as login. This is my first scenario. So we will be giving, now these scenarios are part of login feature and smoke test. So I'm just giving a name as smoke test. Smoke. There is one more thing I forgot to mention, because whenever we automate scenario, we give unique identification ID to each scenario. Right? So in our case, we will be giving unique identification as AC auto 1. This is my first scenario. And this is unique identification for second scenario, AC auto 2. These can be Jira IDs. This can be test case ID in quality center or test case ID in Qtest, any test management tool you are using, because ultimately we need to map each automation test case with manual test case. Perfect. Now, how we can run these two scenarios? Using login tag. So in run Cucumber test class, we have to mention the tag name as login, and it will execute both the scenarios. Execution is in progress. As we can see, it is executing the successful login test as well as unsuccessful login test. See, it is automatically launching a Chrome browser. We have not written the step definition code. So these are the step definitions that I was talking about. The step definition code is missing for these steps. So we can copy this step definition code in our step definition class. Right. So these two steps belongs to login page. So I'm just copying this and putting it in the login page step definition class like this. And the last one also belongs to login page. We want to verify the error message. That error message is also displayed in the on the login page. Perfect. And Cucumber says it's a pending execution. That means why it is throwing pending execution exception? Because we have not written any code in these methods. Similarly, we want to verify the profile page is displayed or not. That will be on profile page. Right. So first of all, we need to, it is giving errors at annotation. So we need to import these annotations from Cucumber package. Import here also import. So now we have our step definition methods ready in our step definition classes. Now let us see the next step. Next step is to create page object model. As I mentioned, we are following page object model design pattern to create our test scripts to reduce the maintenance. Right. So here we are dealing with two pages, that is login page and profile page. So we need to create two separate classes for each web page, and login page will have methods related to login page only, and profile page will have methods related to profile page, so that it will be easy for maintaining our test scripts in future. So how to create page object class? Page classes are present inside pages package. So here we can take an example of home page. So in home page, we have an object of Autognizant driver, right? And we are creating an constructor of homepage class, and we are passing Autognizant driver as an object. So this driver object is used to perform operations on home page. Similarly, we will create a page class for login page. Login page. Perfect. Now we will create an Autognizant driver object. And we will also create a constructor to initialize this driver object. Like this. Very simple, right? Similarly, we will create a page class for profile page. So to save the time, I'm duplicating this login page class and rename it to profile page. So we have profile page class as well. Okay. Okay, so the first thing which we need to do is create methods in our page classes to perform operations on that particular page. So if we look at the login page object, so we have a login page. Once we launch the URL in the browser, we see welcome screen. We have this text login page. So first thing we need to do is launch the URL in the browser and verify the login page is properly displayed or not. So we will create a method to launch our application. Right. So we will be using a method from Autognizant driver dot open browser. This method we have to provide the URL. We also need to create configuration.properties file under config folder. So in the config.properties, we have to mention the application URL. So here I will be changing the application URL to demo QA. So the application URL is demoqa.com/login. Now, how will we fetch these properties, fetch this URL in our login page? So we have a core config object. Sorry, my mistake. This launch application method belongs to login page. And in open browser, we have to provide the application URL. How will you provide the application URL? Using core config class. So we have a core config class in framework, which is used to fetch the properties from configuration.properties. Core config.get application URL. So the URL will be fetched from configuration.properties and provided it to the open browser method. Correct. Then the next thing is creating object repository. I have intentionally separated object repository from page object model classes to reduce the maintenance cost. So we are going to create object repository using JSON files in specific format. And we are going to use the web element name mentioned in the JSON file. Okay, so why I'm telling you this is because we are going to perform operations on the web elements, username and password. So we need to fetch the element attributes, its locator type, its locator values, and store it somewhere. So for storing the locator details, I'm going to use JSON file. Let's take a look at sample JSON file. These are present in the object repository folder. So here we have a JSON file for home page. So you can see this is the structure of web element in JSON file. So we have to provide the web element name that is labeled to your web element, and we have to provide the web element type, whether it's an image, whether it's button or text box, like that. Then we have to provide a frame name. Okay, so if the web element is part inside any iframe or normal frame, we have to provide the frame name. If the element is not inside the frame, we have to provide no frame. Okay, then we have to provide the language. Currently the web application is in English language, so I'm mentioning English. And then we have to provide the locator type and locator value. So let me create a object repository file for login page. New file login page. Here the extension will be JSON. Now I'm creating a JSON array, because in login page there are multiple web elements and we need to store all information of those elements in a single JSON file. For profile page, we will be creating a new JSON file. So first thing we need to do is we need to mention the web element name. So I'm going to copy and paste the same structure here. Okay. So we will first capture all the objects that are present in the login page. So first thing I want to verify is login in bookstore. I will open a developer toolbar and fetch the properties for elements. Okay. So I'm just highlighting this element and you can see this is present here. So let me right click, copy XPath. So there are no ID and name attributes. So I'm simply going to use XPath. So if you are using XPath, the locator type should be XPath and locator value is this, which we have copied from the Chrome Dev tool. Now this is a label, right? Login in bookstore is a label. So we can give web element name as bookstore text, right? The element type is, we can say, a label. Frame name, if it is a, if this element is not inside any frame, so we can mention it as no frame. These double quotes are creating conflict, so I'm going to use single quote for this inside this XPath. Perfect. Now let's capture the elements properties for username, password, and login button. Right. So I'm going to copy paste this one. So this one is username. Right. So for username, I will mention username text box. Web element type text box. This element is also not inside a frame. So I will select no frame. Locator type will check. So for input, the ID is username. So we have a ID attribute, and ID, generally ID are unique attributes. So we can use ID. So locator type is, I'm changing it to ID, and then locator value is username. Similarly, we will create XPaths for password and login button. So web element name is password text box, and for password, let's find out the attributes. So ID is again password. So we will use password. Let's find out the properties for login button. For login button as well, the ID is login. So we are going to use ID attribute. So this is login button. So I will mention it as button, and web element type is also button. Perfect. So we are done with login page elements that are required as of now. Now let's create object repository file for profile page. So I'm duplicating the same to save our time. Profile page. So under profile page, what we are going to verify is whether the profile page is displayed or not. So what I will do, I will just log in manually and fetch the element properties on profile page. Okay, so we are landed on profile page, and here we can see if the search box is displayed and logout button is displayed, that means we are successfully landed on profile page. So let me find out the properties for search text box. So this is ID property again. So I'll just use copy paste, really saves a lot of time. So this is property for search text box, and the web element type is also text box. Then we will find out the properties for logout button. So ID is submit for logout button. So let me use submit. Here it's a logout button. Web element type is button. So we can remove the remaining properties. These are not needed on profile page. Okay, so now we are done with creating object repository files for login page and profile page. Now let's focus on creating methods in a page object model classes. So here we created one method, launch application, to launch demo QA application. Driver.open browser. This once we launch the browser, we land on login page, and on login page we have to verify whether this login page is displayed or not. But before verifying, we first need to wait for these elements to be displayed on a login page, because it takes some time to load the application on a web page. So we will create a method for verifying whether login page is displayed or not. Public void verify login page is displayed. Very simple. We will write code for verifying whether the username is displayed or not. We will first wait for, we can wait for any elements using element wait. So driver dot element wait dot wait until element is clickable, and here we have to provide the web element name, that is we will be using username. So we no need to verify all, we no need to wait for all elements, we can wait for single element only, like this, and then we can start putting assertions on all other elements. So let's use test ng assertions. Assert dot assert true. So here we will be fetching the text, we will verify the label. So driver dot get element text. Here we have to provide the web element name. So we will use this login in bookstore text, like this. So this will get me the text, that is login in bookstore. Now I want to compare whether this text is present or not. So let me once again fetch the actual text. So this is our actual text. So we can use equals method, or for a comparison text, these are string variables. So let's use assert equals instead of assert true, and we will be in assert equals, we have to provide the expected and actual, right? So the first one is let me check which method to use. Okay, let's use test ng assert. So the first one is I'm not sure whether this is the test ng method or not, but we will compare with this one, and then we will mention the assertion message that this text is not displayed. Okay, so let me, okay, this is JUnit assert. I don't want to use JUnit assert, so let's remove this import, and we will import from test ng. Okay, perfect. Similarly, we will verify the username and password fields. So this is username text box. So let me use other method. Instead of assert equals, I will use assert true, and then we will verify whether this username text box is displayed or not. So we will use is element displayed, like username text box, and here we will mention, so we don't need this one. and here we will put a message as username text box is not displayed, and we can copy paste the same thing for a password. So this makes our test scripts readable, right? By looking at the methods and functions, we can clearly say that this method is responsible for launching the application. Verify login page is displayed method is responsible for verifying that the login page is displayed or not. And by looking at our script, we clearly understand that we are operating on which element. So in this method, we are fetching the text from this web element, right? Here we are verifying whether the element is displayed or not. So this way we are able to read our test scripts. If we directly write XPaths and IDs in our automation scripts, we will not be able to read the automation scripts, and we will not be able to tell what functionality it is currently automating by looking at test script. But now with this app, with this JSON file approach, we can store the web element details in the JSON file, and we can use the web element names mentioned here in our script. It really makes our script readable, and it also reduces our maintenance effort. If the element property is changed, we no need to visit our page classes and modify the element properties here. We can actually go to object repository files and modify our locator properties in this file itself. We no need to change our actual test script. Okay, so now we are on login page. We have created a method to verify whether the login page is displayed or not. Now the important functionality is the login functionality. Now we will create a method to perform login operation. Now this method requires the username and password. So we will create a parameterized method which will accept username and password as parameter. Public void login string username string password. Driver dot for entering text into text box, we have a method called enter text. It has two parameters. First parameter is web element name, and second parameter is the username, the actual username. So we are going to use these web elements names here. So what this method will do, this will enter the username which we have provided from feature file into the text box. Similarly, we can use the same method for entering the password. And here we have to provide the actual password. After that, we have to click on login button. So we have a click method, click element. So here again, we have to provide the properties for clicking on login button. So web element name is login button, like this. Okay, if we get any exceptions while performing click operation, then we have to throw the exception. Perfect. So we created methods for performing operations on login page. Okay, now we have to create methods for profile page. So on profile page, what we have to do, we have to verify whether the profile page is displayed or not. So let me log in again manually to find the, we already found out the properties on profile page, right? So yeah, this one. So we will directly create a method on profile page, just like login page. So I'm going to copy paste this method to save the time. And here I will rename it to profile page. So this method verifies whether the profile page is displayed or not. How do we verify whether the profile page is displayed or not? By using the fields. So if the text search box is displayed on profile page, that means the profile page is displayed properly. We will use is element displayed method for verifying the search text box and logout button. So for logout button, this is the web element name. Very simple. Now let me remove the unnecessary code which was copied from login page. See how clean and simple our page classes are looking, and everything is readable. Okay, now let's go back to our login scenario. So successful login test. The first step is I am on login page. Now let's go to the step definition for login page. So under login page step definitions, so here we are performing operations on login page, and login page methods are defined in the login page object model class. So we need to create page object class for login page. Right? So we will have to import it first from pages package. Login page. Now we have to initialize this because login page is using Autognizant driver object. We need to pass the actual Autognizant driver object to login page. Then only it will be able to perform operations on a web page. So we have to create the login page object, and we have to pass the Autognizant driver object to login page. So in the constructor, I'm creating login page object. Login page is equal to new login page, and here we have to provide the Autognizant driver object. How will we get the Autognizant driver object? Using test context class. So we will be using test context dot get driver manager get Autognizant driver. So this is how we will be getting the Autognizant driver object, and we are passing in the login page. Now, so this is the step definition code, right? Given I am on login page. So in Cucumber, we have to exactly match the text which we provide here and the text which is present here. If it doesn't match, then Cucumber will not be able to find your step definition code, right? So whenever Cucumber executes this step, it will search all the step definition classes and it will try to match the text with this text defined in the annotation. If it matches, then it will execute the code which is defined inside this method. Now we have to actually start writing the step definition code. We have already created object repository files. We have created page object model classes. Now it's time to use these page objects models to write our Cucumber step definition code. So I'm just removing this exception and I will be using the login page object, login page dot launch application. That's it. So our step definition code will be very simple. We just have to create an object of the page object model classes and call the methods inside it. Now I log in with valid credentials. So in this method, we are using data table. So data table is a feature which is provided by Cucumber. Now we are passing the actual username and password in the form of data table. So we need to fetch this information in Cucumber step definition. How to fetch this information? So there are multiple ways to fetch this information from data table object. So let's use map, hash map to store the information. So map of string, comma string. So here our key name, in Java we have hash map which stores the data in key value format. So here the key name is username and the value is the actual username. So how to fetch these values? So let me create a map called data. Let me import this from Java util package and I'm using data table. Data table dot let's use as maps. Okay, let's use only map. Perfect. And let's print this information first, just to make sure that we are fetching the correct information or not. So if I want to fetch the username, I will use sysout statements, username data dot get, let us see username. Same thing for password. Okay, and this statement for now we will not write. We will just execute the till this. We will just execute till this part. So if I want to execute only single scenario, I can use this unique identifier to execute a single scenario. So here we have a runner class, run Cucumber test. I'm giving a tag is AC auto -1. So let us run and see if it prints the proper information. So I'm expecting that it should print Rameshwar for username and selenium at 123 for password. If we get correct information, then we will start writing step definition code ahead. And I'm also expecting that it should launch the application URL because we have mentioned this URL in the configuration.properties. Okay, scenario will definitely fail because of some pending step definition. Okay. So this Cucumber says, I verify that profile page is displayed is missing step definition. Okay, I can see there is a spelling mistake, right? I verify, it should be I verify that. Here also it should be I verify that profile page is displayed. Let's verify the step definitions in profile page. So here also I verify that the profile page, for me it looks correct. Oh, but here we have not written the step definition code. That's why it is throwing pending exception. So for now I'm just going to remove this. Let's verify whether it is displaying appropriate username or password or not. So here, okay, it's printing username equal to password and username is null. So something wrong with our step definition code. So let's rectify this one. So this as map will convert the table of single map to string. So each row for the first cell is used to create key value, and the remaining cells are used to create the value. So I think we used incorrect function. So let's use the maps function, and we will need to change the return type. So we will be using the list of map of string and string. So now here data dot get 0 dot get username, and here also it should be. Now let's try using this one. Hopefully it should print the appropriate username and password. Let's run it again and verify, and we should not see any error this time. The application is taking time to load, so we cannot do anything about it. Okay, so I think execution is finished and the scenario is passed also. So all the steps are passed. But let us see what we were looking for, whether it's printing the appropriate username or not. Because we have to fetch this information and provide it to login method. So here we can see the username is print as Rameshwar, and this should be password. I think there is a typo here, but it is fetching the appropriate value for username and password now. So let's use this information and provide it to the login method. So here it should be password, and now we have already created object of login page. So we will just using login page dot login method, and here we have to pass the username and the password. That's it. Right, login method throws exception, so here also we have to throws exception. After the successful execution of login method, we will be navigated to profile page. Right, so on profile page we have to verify that the profile page is displayed or not. So we need to create an object for profile page. Profile page. Perfect. For profile page also we need to provide the Autognizant driver object. So I'm creating a profile page object, new profile page, and Autognizant driver. How will we fetch the Autognizant driver object? Using text context. Text context dot get driver manager dot get Autognizant driver. That's it. Now we have the Autognizant driver and we have the profile page object. So let's verify whether profile page is displayed or not. So verify profile page is displayed. Perfect. So we have written the Cucumber scenario. Then we created step definition classes. Then we created page object model classes. Then we created our object repository in JSON files. Then we implemented the code for the page object class methods. Then we implemented the code for Cucumber steps in step definition classes. And then finally, we are done with writing test scripts for our first scenario. Okay, so now if we execute the scenario using runner class, it will look like this. Just now I showed, right? But if we execute out the scenario using Maven method, using Maven command, it will generate a nice report for us. So first, let's see. Okay, but before we do that, let's execute from runner class and whether it is printing the setup successfully. Okay, I think we are good. But still, let's verify it from runner class first. So let me execute and from runner class. So I'm expecting that it will enter the username and password and click on login button. Oh, it didn't enter. So something is wrong. Oh, so it says no frame is not loaded. And it is giving us no such element exception. The issue was because I was using frame name as no frame. I thought I had changed the convention, but I forgot to change it. My bad. So we still have to, if the element is not present inside any iframe or frame, we have to use frame name as main. So I changed all frame names to main and it started working again. So let us see if it works or not. Let me run the runner class again. So I'm expecting that it should enter valid username and password and click on login button and verify the profile page. And then we'll start automating our unsuccessful login test scenario. So we can see scenarios passed and it entered the correct username and password. So we are good with our first scenario and it is working fine. Now let's start automating our second scenario, that is unsuccessful login test. So we already have created these two steps and it's a step definition code and it's a step definition code. So we no need to write any new code for these two steps. We only need to write a new step for verifying this error message, that is invalid username and password. So first of all, what we will do, we will capture the properties for that message. Invalid username and password. So we are supposed to get error message, this one, and we will create object repository for this web element. So this is a message, ID is name. Okay, so and this is a part of login page. So I'm creating a new web element in JSON file. Like this, and I will mention the web element name as login error message text. Okay, and this is the label, so I'm using a label. Frame name is main and ID is again the name. So we will use the ID attribute for locating this error message. Okay, now we will create a new method in login page class. So in login page class, we need to create a new method for verifying that error message is displayed or not. So public void, let us say verify error message. Okay, and here we are going to pass the error message. As we parameterize login method, similarly we should parameterize verify error message method as well. So string message, and here before verifying the error message we should wait for the error message, but I think our get element text method automatically waits for an element to appear, so we will use it without putting an actual wait statement. Assert dot assert equals, and here the actual error message is driver dot get element text. We have to provide the web element name. This is the web element name. So it will fetch the text from this web element. And we also need to compare it with expected message. And here I will mention that this message is not displayed. Whatever the message that is passed to this method. Perfect. Now we have verify error message method ready. Now this is the step definition, right? So I verify that this error message is displayed or not. And this is a part of login page steps. So under login page steps, we have this method, right? So here I need to rectify this typo. I verify that the message is displayed. So here, if you observe, there is a parameter called string. So whatever the value we are providing in double quotes, that is converted in a variable, and that is this string variable, and which is being passed to string parameter. Here I will rename this string parameter to message parameter. Now this is part of login page, so I will just call the verify error message method using login page object. Verify error message and message. That's it. So you observe, right, how easy it is to write new step definition code and automate new scenarios. We just need to keep adding new step definition methods. We just need to add new web elements in JSON file and create new methods in page object model classes. So let's verify the second scenario. So let me just run only second scenario with unique identifier. Here I am expecting that it should enter invalid username and password and verify the error message. So it's entering the invalid username and password, and unsuccessful login test scenario also passed. Right. So I think we successfully automated both the scenarios. Now it's time to go back to GitHub and see the next steps. After we are done with automating our test script, it's time to execute our test scripts using Maven command. And before executing our test scripts, we have to provide some test execution parameters that are defined in the autognizant.config and configuration.properties, as I mentioned earlier. So framework level parameters are defined in autognizant.config file, which is located under src test resources. Right. So scenario ID prefix at AC auto. So this is a unique identifier which starts with this prefix. This parameter is used to identify each scenario. It is used to identify each scenario uniquely and can be mapped with manual test cases. Then second parameter is application window title. In our case, the application window title is tools QA. And the element weight. The element weight is nothing but an explicit wait timeout, and that is currently globally set to 30 seconds. If we increase this timeout 30 seconds to 60 seconds, it will be applicable to all explicit wait actions. Then we have test execution parameters defined in configuration.properties. Let me go to Eclipse and explain these files. So let me open the autognizant.config file first. So here scenario ID prefix is at AC auto hyphen. At is for Umber tags, AC is nothing but autognizant, and auto is for automation, right? So that is why we have given unique identifier as AC auto hyphen 1, AC auto hyphen 2. And this can be mapped with manual test cases, so that there will be mapping between manual test case and automation test case, and we can track the automation progress in each sprint. The second one is app window title. So here earlier it was mentioned as Google, but we need to change it to tools QA as we are automating this tools QA project, right? Why this is useful? This is used to switch between different tabs and different windows. So if your application opens up new windows, new tabs, we need to switch between the windows, right? So after performing operations on new window, we again need to switch to our parent window, that is tools QA. So that's why we have to provide app window title, and this parameter is used for switching between the windows and tabs. So let me find out. So here it should be somewhere, yeah, title is tools QA. So we can copy this title and put it over here. And explicit wait is explicit wait globally declared, and it will wait for all wait statements, and it will use 30 seconds as timeout. Then let's understand the configuration.properties. So here Google, the project name is Google search engine from example project, but now we can change the project name to tools QA, right? And the client name is, let us say, demo QA. So these names will appear in our reports. Now we are automating application, web application. So application type should be web. If you are automating web services, application type should be services, right? Then we have to provide application URL as this is the base URL for your application. The environment, you can mention QA. If you are executing on dev environment, you can put it as dev. If you are executing your tests on pre-prod or prod environment, you can change the environment name accordingly. Then we have to specify the browser name, on which browser we want to execute our test cases. So earlier it was defined in Google Chrome. So that's why you were seeing the execution was happening on Google Chrome browser. If you want to execute on different browser like Mozilla Firefox or Microsoft Edge, you can change the browser name here and your scripts will be executed on desired browser. Then there is a parameter called execution type. And here we have two values, local and grid. When we put execution type as local, the scripts will be executed on local Chrome browser, right? If we mention the execution type as grid, then it will be, the scripts will be executed inside Selenium grid, and we have to provide the grid URL. Now grid can be set up on local system, it can be set up on cloud system, wherever it may be. If you want to execute your scripts remotely on Selenium grid, we have to change the execution type as grid and we also need to provide the selenium grid URL. Then execution mode. So currently the execution mode is real because we saw the real Chrome browser opening and the scripts are running. We can even set the execution mode as headless. Headless means the real browser will not open up. It will be opening in the background and our scripts will be running in the background. It's a lighter version than the real browser. The execution is faster than the real browser in case of headless mode. Now the language is English. So English means in the object repository JSON files, you saw the execution tag called English. So we are executing our test scripts against English language. If your application supports multiple languages like Dutch, French, we can execute our test scripts against different language. And it will automatically pick up the new locators for that specific language from JSON files. That was another advantage of having separate object repository. What I mean by this is, if we look at this, here we have English language. If we want to execute our same test scripts against French language or Dutch language, we no need to create new scenarios. We no need to create new page object model classes. Only thing we need to do is create new web locator details inside this. If it is a Dutch language, we can add one more parameter like this, Dutch, and our scripts will be picking up the parameters for Dutch language, and our scripts will be executed against Dutch language. So that was another advantage of keeping separate object repository file. Coming back to configuration.properties. So if you want to verify data from database, we can provide database details, like which database you are going to use, whether it is MySQL, Oracle, or SQL Server, whatever it may be. So you just need to provide your driver name, connection URL, and the database name, along with database username and password. Last but not least, we can even provide if you want to upload files or download files from any SFTP server, we have a SFTP utility prepared. So we can provide the host name, port number, and username and password. So these things are not required right now, but you can leverage this if you have such kind of requirements. Okay, so what we did, we changed the project name, client name. Now it's time to execute our test scripts using Maven command. So first we need to set up a runner class. So runner class is already set up. In runner class, what we mentioned where our feature files are located. Feature files are located inside SRC test resources features folder. Then glue is our step definition classes. Okay, so let me explain it from Eclipse. So we have a run Cucumber test class. So here you can see we have mentioned the Cucumber options. In Cucumber options, we have mentioned that our feature files are located inside SRC test resources /features. Our glue code is nothing but the step definition classes code. So here we have to provide the package name. So our step definition classes are present inside steps package. So that's why we have given com.autognizant.example.steps. Okay, then we have to provide the tags, which tags we want to execute. Currently we were executing single tag. So we were giving a single tag over here and we were executing it from a runner class itself. Okay, and if you want to execute multiple scenarios in parallel, we have to provide parallel equals to true. So to run Cucumber scenarios in parallel mode, we have to extend the abstract test ng cucumber test, and we have to provide this syntax which will run all cucumber scenarios in parallel. Okay, now go to our last step, that is running our test scripts using Maven. So how we can run our tests? So all we need to do is run mvn clean verify. This will run the cucumber features tags mentioned in the run cucumber test Java. So here we have mentioned AC auto 2. So if we execute it using Maven command, so let me set up a Maven command, run as, or let me go to run configuration, and let's run it using Maven command. So Maven build, so let us say mvn verify, base directory is my AC demo QA, goals is, so if we are executing Maven command from Eclipse, we no need to provide mvn keyword. We can only start from mvn clean verify. Clean verify is enough. Okay, I will just simply apply and run. So what this will do, this will execute the tags which are present inside run cucumber test. So I'm expecting that it will execute this single scenario and generate report. And the next thing is, if you want to override the tags, then we can provide these tags. This will override the tag values in the run cucumber test, and it will execute the scenarios which are starting with these tags. Similarly, we can even directly execute the feature files as well by providing the dcucumber.features. This will run the given given feature file, and the execution results will be generated inside a target directory under cucumber HTML reports. So you will have to open the overview-features.html file to view the reports. So as you can see, it started executing through Maven, and it is compiling the project for now. So it started executing tests now. Okay, this time we received element click intercept error, but no worries. So anyhow, this test case is failed. So we are supposed to get proper reports along with its screenshot. Although it is not supposed to fail, but let us see. So let's go to target directory. So Maven use this target directory for build output. So here you can see the cucumber HTML reports directory is automatically created, and we have this overview-features file. So we can open this file and see the reports. So these are nice HTML format reports, right? And we executed only one scenario, and that is failed, right? Here we can see the graphical representation. Like this, we executed only one scenario and it failed. That's why it is 100% failure. And here we executed how many steps? We executed 3 steps. Out of 3, 1 skipped, 1 passed, and 1 failed. So this is how you can see the graphical report. If you click on feature file, you will see nice HTML reports. And here we can see the hooks are passed, the first step is passed, and we are getting selenium exception, element click intercept. So it wasn't able to selenium, even though the locator details are correct, selenium was not able to click on login button. That's why we are getting this exception. Sometimes we receive this exception if the element is not properly visible. So we can, in such cases, we need to use JavaScript click. Okay, so here this step is failed and the last step is skipped. If any step fails in Cucumber, it doesn't execute the remaining steps. So all other steps gets skipped. So if you click the down arrow, it will expand everything. And now in the screenshot, you can see the screenshot for failure. So it was not able to click on the login button. And here are the logs for the execution. So you can see the login step successful. It first loaded the object repository. It loaded all the files from object repository. Then it printed the scenario name. Test data is not available for this scenario, right? And it printed all the actions that we performed on a web page, from launching the application to entering the username and password, right? I hope you enjoyed the content, and I'm sure you will give it a try using Autognizant framework, and you will certainly let me know your feedback and your suggestion. Thank you so much for watching. You will see 2 of my previous videos here. See you soon.